Here's exactly how you need to tackle IELTS reading for general and academic modules. Now, our students always practice academic, even if they're doing the general exam. Simple reason for this is if you practice the harder readings, the actual exam becomes very easy for you, and this works for our students all the time. So I highly recommend you do the same thing. We're going to go over all types of questions, and I'm going to give you the most straightforward answers to all with the best strategy. List of headings. The correct answers for a list of headings are not always in the first and the last lines. That's what a lot of people say. Just read the first and last lines and that's all you need. It's not that simple, especially nowadays. Things can be in the middle as well. So you really need to read the whole paragraph and then understand the title, then look at the list of headings. However, it has some truth to it when people say read the first and last lines. So I'll tell you, again, based on the thousands of students I've personally taught and the thousands of students that our teachers keep teaching. Here's what we see based on exam patterns. The first line does mostly have the answer. I would say 60% of the time, the first lines have the answer. Now, about 20 or to 30% more times, you would find the answers in a combination of the first and last lines. Okay, so both of them, again, together really help. And in rare cases, you have the answers in the middle as well. But you wouldn't know if you are going to be that rare case in the exam. Hence, it is your duty to read the whole thing, but we can reasonably say put more focus on the first and last lines, but do not ignore the body. Now, how you can make this easy and fast for yourself is first, read all the headings. All the headings in the question, 1 to 10 in this case, look at the keywords, visualize the concepts. That's how you'll be able to remember all these headings. So now, once you have almost memorized them because you're visualizing and imagining them, you go into paragraph A. Read it, come back, and match. Then go to paragraph B. Read it, come back, and match. And so on. Once you do this, as you continue with the paragraphs, you will be faster. Because let's say for A and B, you would have selected 1 and 10. Now you have only 8 options to look at for the remaining questions. And these options will get lesser and lesser as the time goes. So this will be slow at the start, but fast at the end. Once again, why are we reading all questions at the start is because this is not going to be in sequence. So you read everything, then look at the paragraphs one by one to figure out which goes first. Now, if you are in a hurry, you have left this question at the end, you have only 2 minutes left, then just read the first lines and make educated guesses, because now you're in trouble. But ideally, you should be reading the whole paragraph for this kind of question. Let's go to the next question type, true, false, not given. Here, I always recommend looking at 2 questions at a time instead of just 8 and then go up and then 9 and then go up. The reason is sometimes 8 and 9, 2 questions can easily be out of sequence. 9 may come before 8. And if it doesn't, it might be near. So once you're done with 8, you will see something about 9 close by in the passage and you'll be on track. It'll keep you confident. Now, when you're reading these questions, when you're reading 2 at a time, look at the keywords, go in the passage, come back and mark the answer. The biggest confusion here is between false and not given. That's where people usually get stuck. So I always tell people false is basically the opposite of what the question is. Now, in this case, let's say the question number 10 here is he lost faith in the medical theories of his time. The opposite of this would be he didn't lose faith. He believed in the medical theories of his time. He loved those medical theories. If I find that, it's false. But if there's a random statement, like he studied the medical theories of his time. Now, he studied them, and you might think that that makes this false because he was studying them, so he didn't lose faith, but there's no mention of him losing faith or the opposite of that, which is why it's not given. So always, whenever you're confused, make the sentence the opposite from the question. If you can't find that opposite, it is not given. Remember that theory. Something like this. Write your answers in the boxes. Which 3 of the following are parts of Gilbert's discovery? So here I gotta find 3 things. Now, Gilbert's discovery is the keyword. I'm gonna go in the passage, find places where Gilbert's discovery is mentioned, not in the same words, but any paraphrased versions. Gilbert found this out. It was discovered by Gilbert. Gilbert is credited for finding out something. Or even things like Gilbert's research shows. So I'm going to find those places, but before I do, I'm going to look at all these sentences, A to F, because once again, I don't know the sequence. Whenever you don't know the sequence, you have to look at all questions. So I'm reading A to F, looking at the keywords, almost memorizing them by imagining and visualizing them rather than strict memorization. And once I do, I'm going to go up, find places where there are Gilbert's discovery, and match 3 things. You will most likely see everything, okay? It's not like if B, C, and D are correct, you only see these words. You would most likely see something like A, but it might say metals can be molded into other metals or different structures. So it's not the same thing, but it's close to it. And that will make this false, or you would not select this option. So don't be afraid if you find something similar and you're getting all of these answers. Find the concept. The exact concept should match. Now let's head over to our next passage, true, false, not given. We have discussed these. Let's talk about these types of questions. No more than 2 words, no more than 3 words. It could either be you writing an answer or you filling an answer in the gaps. Whenever this happens, once again, they are mostly in sequence, so I would look at 2 questions at a time. In this case, questions 20 and 21. Look at them, look at the keywords, go back in the passage, find where they are, and match it. Now, in something like this, when I practice this passage with my students, they always get confused because look at question number 20. What are the other 2 hottest years? And then 22, the other 2 hottest years, and they get confused. So what is the difference? The difference is this one, 20, says Britain, and 22 says in the globe. That's the difference. And how we know this is because we simply focused on the keywords. So our focus here is 2 hottest years in Britain, and here the focus is 2 hottest years in the globe. Look at the keywords in the question. Try to find those or their similar paraphrased versions. Also, try to predict. Obviously, if you're looking at years, you're looking at 1990, 2000, etc. You're looking for a number. If I look at question number 21, what will also influence government policies in the future, like the hot summer? So this would be very conceptual. I would think it's something like the politics would influence the next election, the prices, the protests. Those are going to be the things that are likely going to be the answers, and I'm going to focus on those and look for those clues. So here, in no more than 2, no more than 3 words, you're looking for the keywords in the question, and you're predicting before getting to the passage. Now, when it comes to something like this, title of the passage, even if this question is at the start, you do it at the end. Once you have done all the other questions, you would have read the passage very thoroughly, and you can now come and answer this question. Always leave this at the end. Now, there was a problem here. The answer was actually D. And this is very confusing because the first 3 options mention global warming. So a student would think that you have to have something about global warming, but no, it was actually something completely different. And that's normal. So don't let these clues fool you. At the end, you're looking at the entire passage because you've done all the other questions, but also look at the first and last paragraphs. They usually contain the main essence of the passage, as well as the actual title. In this case, the actual title was the 2003 heat wave, and this is exactly this part, that hot year in Europe. That summarizes the title, basically. So if you're given a title, look at that. Easiest thing you can do. Passage 3 is where things get crazy. Now, we're looking here at the matching questions. 27 to 33, you have to match them with the paragraphs. When you get this type of question, it's very similar to list of headings because the strategy is exactly the same. You look at all the questions, you look at the keywords, look at the concepts, try to visualize them. Then you go into paragraph A. Read it, understand it, come back and match. B. Read it, understand it, come back and match, and so on. Now, in this case, the only difficulty is you cannot rely any longer on the first and last sentences because they are not headings. This is finding information. You literally have to read every sentence with focus, which will take time. And that is why the best thing you can do when you're getting these types of questions is combine it with another question type. If I see the next questions, I'm seeing 34 keyword Walter Coates. It's a name, it's not going to be paraphrased. 35, keyword, Robert Marsham, and again, a name. It's also talking about animals and plants on his land. So I'm going to keep these two questions and the keywords and concepts here in my head. And I'm going to focus on 27 to 33. While I'm reading these paragraphs to match information, as soon as I see something related to 34 and 35, I'm going to answer 34 and 35. And then I'm going to continue with this, but then I'm going to keep 36 in my head. And if I see that while doing this, I'm going to answer 36. For matching questions, it is your duty to do this. It's no longer optional because you'll be spending so much time reading everything, you will not have time left for other questions. Hence, you look at other questions in combination with the matching questions. Finally, with the multiple choice questions, in this case, what you could do if you're starting with 40, this is the end, you want to start from the bottom of the passage. This is in sequence too. So if this was the first question, I would start from the start of the passage, but because this is the ending section, 40, 39, I'm going to look at these two and go from the bottom of the passage upwards. I'm going to reverse sequence it, but this will help me track all questions. The way you look at multiple choice questions is never to look at the options. Because if I see 37 and I see A, B, C, D, now I go up, my judgment is already flawed because I have 3 wrong options in my head and now I'm reading with a bias. Never look at the options. Look at 37 only, look at the question, then go up, find this answer yourself as if this was a fill in the gap question. Then once you understand it, come back and answer. Now you can look at the options because now you objectively know what the correct answer is. Also, multiple choice questions are in sequence, so you can read 2 questions at a time. Hence, if I'm starting in this case in reverse, I'm going to look at 40 and 39, then 39 and 38, and so on. That's it. That wraps up all the major types of IELTS questions. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. If you want IELTS coaching, classes, or any sort of help, check out our offers in the description. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll talk to you very soon.